All right, good evening. Good evening and welcome to the Port of Olympia Commission meeting. It's Monday, April 22nd, 2024. It is 5:31 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. Commissioner Tong, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Just one note, we do have Desco in the room tonight, so hopefully everyone on Zoom is going to be able to hear everything okay. Our Desco technician guys are going to keep an eye on things, and hopefully the microphone works well and everybody on Zoom will be able to hear. We are all present with the exception of Commissioner Vasavada. She will be joining us on Zoom, and she's there. I can see her, so she is with us. So we have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda today?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll move for the vote. All in favor of approving today's agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yeah, is there any opposed? Any opposed? I didn't actually hear you from Vasavada. Maybe you did a thumbs up, but good. All right, good. So moving on to the next item on the agenda is the Executive Director report. Executive Director Smith.
Oh, thank you.
All yours.
Commission President Ayal. I will try the clicker once the presentation's up. It is coming. Let's see if this works. All right. So good evening, commissioners. Just to update you and members of the public who are viewing this on some activities of the port. So we've been busy with activity over the past few weeks in community outreach. We've been actively supporting, attending, and even hosting a variety of community events. We participated in Thurston County Chamber forums, events, and celebrations, and delivered multiple presentations to community groups. And we had an Earth Day cleanup event today on Marine Drive to celebrate Earth Day in furtherance of our environmental stewardship mission. Let's see. Also this week, the Olympia Regional Airport hosted the Tumwater Fire Department, and they had a training exercise. It was on Wednesday, April 17th. It was at the Olympia Regional Airport to assess readiness in the event of an aviation incident or accident. The Olympia Regional Airport has an excellent safety record, but it's always good to practice to ensure the port's and the city's emergency preparedness is at its highest levels. The training scenario included a simulated helicopter accident with injuries, response time, command and control, impact on airfield operations, air traffic control, medical evaluation, communication and coordination at port, city, and federal levels were all tested. I personally can attest to that. Warren left me a voicemail message that scared the heck out of me because it said there had been a helicopter accident at the airport. So learned later it was just a test, just a test. So the lessons that were learned we incorporated into the next revisions of the city port interlocal agreement and our respective emergency operations plans. We wanted to express our appreciation to our partnership with the city of Tumwater and its ability to provide on-demand airfield firefighting and medical support capability. Also, kudos to Northwest Helicopters for providing a decommissioned helicopter, which you can see there. And also to their staff for helping us conduct the exercise, and of course to the Olympia Regional Airport Control, our staff. We would not have been able to do this exercise without their help. And this upcoming this week on Wednesday is the postponed town hall I am looking forward to meeting with folks in the community and answering questions and talking about the port's future and our vision for it and hear what folks would like to see the port be doing. So it's at 5:30 on Wednesday, April 24th in this room, the Olympia Room at 626 Columbia Street Northwest here downtown. On April 29th upcoming, we will have an internal meeting with our consultant team on the Bud Inlet Port Peninsula Cleanup and Revitalization Project. This is an attempt for us all to get together and sort of reset and establish schedules and priorities, in particular looking at funding opportunities for the cleanup and what we can do also in terms of revitalizing the peninsula. So that will be on April 29th. Yes, and please, if you would like more information about it, we have a particular webpage, portolympia.com/Bud Inlet, or you can contact the Bud Inlet project manager, Jonathan Wolf. His email is there at the bottom, jonathanw@portolympia.com. We have lots of events coming this summer, but one of the newest and most novel and fun is coming till June 28th through July 7th. It's the Shoestring Circus. And have a little more information about them. They are based, actually, the tent will be in Swantown off Marine Drive and Market Street. And the company, the Shoestring Circus, is based out of Bellingham. It's an artist-owned production and it features world-class circus acts, including tightrope dancing, high-flying aerialists, jugglers, comedians, sword swallowers, and more. So tickets are on sale right now at shoestringcircus.com. And I think that is it. As always, we value your input. We have many public comment opportunities, as you can see at our commission meetings, on our website, with our social media. We also are going to be restarting our port tours. And we also welcome direct calls and emails. You can request a meeting with port staff or request a speaker. We're happy to come to you. And that is it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Executive Director Smith?
I just want to point out, it's been 1 month.
It has. Yes.
So, and all the feedback from our staff and the community is that our executive director's really been hitting the ground running, and we're so thankful to have you out there and just leading with vision, leadership, transparency. So super excited.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. It's been fun.
All right, anything else? No? Okay, we will move on to public comment. Individual public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Members of the public may comment on agenda items and other port business. The guidelines for public comment can be found in the Commission Rules and Resolution 2022-09, Article 6. Comments should be directed to the commission as a whole and should not include comments about individual port staff or members of the public. All speakers shall be courteous in language and demeanor, shall confine remarks to those facts that are germane and relevant to questions or issue under discussion. Do you have anybody signed up for public comment? No, is anybody on Zoom with a hand up who would like to make public comment?
Hands up on Zoom. No public comment.
Okay, if no one wants to make public comment, we will move on to the consent calendar. We have under bills and vouchers, we have the bills and vouchers for January and February of 2024. The January vouchers or warrants over the January batch with warrants over 200,000 are Dalton, Olmsted, and Bugle Band, also known as DOF. $243,297.43, and the leasehold tax at $212,296.67, and warrants over 200,000 for February included Chehalis Sheet Metal for $330,000, $220. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Okay. Did Commissioner, oh, okay. Commissioner Vasavada, I thought raised your hand. but-
Yeah, I thought so.
Are there any opposed votes? No. Okay. All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda is pending issues. Pending issues or business, and we have one item under this agenda item tonight. Internal committee discussion. Camille St. Ange, Director of Strategic Initiatives and Commission Affairs. You have the floor.
Well, good evening, commissioners. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you here. For the record, my name's Camille St. Ange. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Commission Affairs. Before we get into this presentation, I really just want to set the stage. This is a conversation starter for you. One of the benefits of expanding from a 3-member commission to a 5-member commission is you have the opportunity to get together and work together as a team, and that could include internal subcommittees. And so I believe that that was one of the considerations or benefits that the commission considered when you redistricted and moved to 5 members. So this evening's discussion is really just that. It's a conversation starter for you, the opportunity for all of you to come together. I don't believe we've had this discussion previously. So today I'm teeing this up as a conversation starter. If after this evening's discussion, you decide that you'd like to pursue this, me and other staff members will come back to you with an advisory presentation where we would flesh out really what subcommittees would look like for this commission and prepare charters, information, rules of operation. But until we have that direction from you, we wouldn't want to get in front of you. So this evening's discussion, to help you start your conversation, I am going to share with you another port's example of subcommittees and their structures and how they work. And that'll be a great time to ask questions. I can share information that I've researched. And then I will share with you also some considerations of what some needs might be internally for subcommittees that you might consider. And as mentioned, this is all just draft, and it's really to tee up a conversation for you and have discussion as a group. So beginning with the Port of Seattle, they have 7 standing subcommittees, and then they have special and ad hoc committees. So before we even talk about that, I want to make sure that everyone here, who's listening and our commissioners, most importantly, understand we're not proposing that you create 7 standing subcommittees today. Moreover, this is one of a metro port, and I wanted to ensure that you had an idea of how another port is operating, and it gives you something to consider. So the 7 standing subcommittees that the Port of Seattle has, each of those have a charter, and those charters have been added as an addendum to their resolution. And those charters include a purpose statement, a scope of what they cover. It determines that they don't have any decision-making capability for the commission, that they have the ability to have non-voting members. If they wanted to have an advisory members as a part of that, they have that as an opportunity. And it also, their charters direct them back to their strategic plan, that their work really should be tied into the strategic plan of the port. So in those committees, each of them has 2 commissioners who sit on those. And some of the committee members, the commission members, sit on more than one committee. So because they have 7 plus. So you could see that there's a need to sit on multiple committees. The meeting frequency, it varies. It is determined by the committee. Some meet on the low 4 times a year, so quarterly. Others on the high of 9 or a little bit more, depending upon the year. And then each of them has a work plan that they submit. So, and those vary by committee as well. Some of them are very extensive. For example, environmental, as I'm sure you're not surprised, is the most complicated and robust one. And then some of the others are pretty simplistic. And in those committees, just to remind you, they don't have any decision-making authority for the commission. Moreover, they come together, they're giving recommendations. They might have information that they've brought back from their committee meetings. So for example, you all have committee assignments throughout the county, and you sit on many boards. And having the opportunity to come together with another commissioner or also maybe staff, you can inform the decisions and be more collaborative with the information that you have. And each one of the committees at Port of Seattle has a staff member that's assigned. And just so you're aware, within our own organization, our staff sees the opportunity or the need to have a stronger connection to you or advisory committees in general. I'm going to just pick on the environmental team. Our environmental director said he sees the need for a standing advisory committee around Bud Inlet, the work around Bud Inlet. And how wonderful would it be if he had a stronger connection to you and your work on the committees you sit in within the county. Let's see. I'm going to show some examples of the work plans for the committees, a couple of committees at Seattle, so you can see what they look like. So this is a light committee. So they a small. They have two things they've charged themselves for 2024. They're going to review and make recommendations to amend the commission's code of ethics. And they expect in the 4th quarter of this year, so sometime, at the end of the year, they'll have something to bring back as a recommendation to the main commission. And their other charge that they've given themselves is a possible review of a delegation of responsibility and authority to the executive director. And that's pending, it looks like, a conversation and discussion with the commission before they proceed with that. This is what I'm going to call a medium-sized work plan for Seattle. So this is their waterfront and industrial lands committee. And so they've built theirs out a little bit more. They have land use and transit. We don't deal in transit today, but so this is just an example of one of the groups, how they have a more robust work plan that they put together for the year. You can see under green economy and initiatives and real estate, they're going to be looking at future lines of business study, cruise issues. And, this is similar to some of the studies we've done here over the years at the port in conjunction with our advisory committee. And so you might entertain that there might be a strong connection between our advisory committee and the work that you're doing out in the community in your assignments. So this is the very robust work plan. It was the most robust work plan I could find on their standing subcommittees, and it's the environmental. They call their sustainability, environmental, and climate work subcommittee, and they have a number of different issues. And to be clear, staff at the Port of Olympia, we're not suggesting that you adopt something super robust like this. That's, by all means, please don't interpret that. This is just an example of what we found at Seattle. I don't know if you've heard that saying, sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. And this might be one of those instances where you need to go slow to go fast in how you approach this. Next, I'm going to share with you what a potential set of subcommittees could look like here at the Port of Olympia, should you decide that's something that you want to entertain. So we know that internally, our environmental team who works on Bud Inlet restoration and remediation is interested in having an advisory committee members work with them directly. And I know they would welcome probably the opportunity to hear from you. So something to consider. Another consideration might be destination waterfront and economic development. I know several of you work through in your assignments with the EDC, with STEADY, the Chamber of Commerce, and Experience Olympia. So you have expressed general interest in that and may have the opportunity to come together and provide either feedback or guidance in that committee. And then POCAC Governance Committee, and that's that committee there would be a committee that would be charged with assignments to the advisory committee members that we have today and create a connection. Recently, I've met with the majority of you and shared my some history of the POCAC, how they're working today. We have a very large group. We have 17 members, and I think I've shared this multiple times that it has just been a real enriching part of my career to work with the team of professionals on that group. But they are a large group. They're 17, and it's not typical that a group of 17 people can work pretty fluidly. And they recognize that as well and would like to work in maybe smaller subcommittees. You could have a seasonal, or you could call it a special or ad hoc group, and that could be government affairs. Currently, the Port of Olympia hasn't had a standing government affairs subcommittee with commissioners, but that might be something that you might want to be involved with. We oftentimes will visit with our representatives and senators about issues facing the port and gain support for funding. Recently, we were awarded funds for not only for Budd Inlet cleanup, but also we had been awarded funds for economic development to support the destination waterfront development. And this is just a draft, something to start a conversation for you. Really, what you decide to do, that's your decision. But we wanted to make sure that we gave you something to react to and kind of chew on. So I do want to expand on the governing POCAC committee and and blow that out just a little bit so you could help understand the recommendation that we'll be coming back with in the future and having other discussions. And that is how you could be connected to the POCAC. There's 17 members today, and they can act as subcommittees for this commission and could develop research around Budd Inlet. They can work on waterfront, public access, or economic development. Those are just some ideas that they had been toying with. And I wanted to share that with you and what that would look like, because it's a little new of an idea, even though I think I shared this with you in my individual briefings with you, but just for the sake of everyone here today. Another option, so these are just groupings. You could, instead of having an internal committee, a subcommittee just focused purely on Budd Inlet, it could include in state environment, sustainability, and climate. There's a lot of crossover though with Budd Inlet and those issues, because sea level rise and environmental cleanup definitely are two important parts of Budd Inlet, and so is sustainability along the Port Peninsula. Waterfront and industrial lands, that is how the Port of Seattle has categorized a grouping of their of content for their subcommittee. That's up to you whether that is something that you would want to pursue. Government affairs could be just a standing subcommittee that's worked on throughout the year, or it could be seasonal. Or the POCAC governance could be a special committee that maybe only meets twice a year, once to review work plans that they develop, or you help give them assignments, and then again at another part of the year. So there's, to review their assignments. So there's a couple ways to go about this. And, the idea is that today that this conversation is for you to have amongst yourselves and determine if this is something you'd like staff to continue to pursue, and bring back some examples or draft charters that you might review or consider.
Okay, who would like to start a discussion or ask a question? Anyone? Commissioner Vasavada, you would like to bring up?
Sure. Well, I'd like to thank Camille for bringing this to the commission and for her work on this. I do think looking at these opportunities is now's the right time. I particularly appreciate how disconnected we are from the Port Advisory Committee and kind of that they exist, all these people with so many qualifications to advise us, and we haven't figured out yet a bridge to that. So I'm very intrigued by those recommendations of how to connect to that committee. I guess I would just add that I see a real need right now for a financial subcommittee. It could be ad hoc. I mean, it doesn't have to be forever, but as we are trying to bring more transparency and awareness, this keeps coming up again and again, some lack of information we have there. So I think there's really some work we need to drive in that direction, and it would be helpful to have a financial subcommittee. And then the last thing I'd say is it seems like the airport and the New Markets Industrial Campus right now, things are quiet, but as we do a master plan and understanding how those lands are meant to support the airport, it does seem like that's its own sort of area that's not covered here by any of the recommended committees. So those were some of my thoughts, but the idea that we'd have some committee where you can be looking at new lines of business, committees where you can be connecting better to the community members who are most willing to dedicate their time, and some level of governance between the delegation of authority and finance work is very appealing to me. So thank you very much, and I hope we'll keep moving this conversation forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, I would also like to mention that if the staff for, I think you mentioned, Camille, that the staff of the Bud Inlet cleanup project mentioned that it might be nice to have a committee that they can connect with a little more often as far as the cleanup project goes. So I guess that's kind of an eye opener for me that if we need to be more involved, maybe there is a room for a committee there.
I think when I was looking at this, what kept popping up for me is the part-time nature of our positions as commissioners versus like the Port of Seattle, which is a full-time position. There's 7 of them. And they're a lot more in the weeds as far as the work. And so the delineation between governance and operations and just workload. So I feel like the external committee assignments to do a meaningful job are already overwhelming, to be honest. Because if you're doing a meaningful job, you then become the vice president of the organization you serve on, or and there are some of the committees that we serve on that are staffed by that are represented by staff from other jurisdictions. So I think that's something that we should consider is our existing committee assignments. Maybe there are some that are not appropriate at the commission level, and then maybe we can dive deeper into the ones that we are serving on. So maybe Sea Level Rise Committee then lends itself to a subcommittee regarding environment or Bud Inlet or something like that. To your point of like, you have to go slow to go fast, I think just not biting off more than we can chew as far as more meetings and more work assignments. And then also just trying to build trust as a commission of 5. I just wonder how you'd avoid the bias of 2. Like if Commissioner Sanders and I are on a committee and we say, we want all the focus to go on to Nino because that's our, and then we come back to the group and they're like, wait a minute. That was a question. That's not a negative. That's more so just how do you, when you have a constantly revolving commission, every 1 to 2 years, it will be changing and you're trying to build trust that everyone's voice is being heard and you're speaking with one voice. How do you do that? I'm sure there's a way. That was a question. And I agree with Commissioner Vasavada on financial and delegation of authority and POCAC. I'm just not sure how, I feel like we need the whole commission to be involved in those conversations. But if there is a meaningful way to dole out work for 2 people, I'm open to that because I do think it needs to be a priority, so. Yeah, just more questions.
Yeah, I appreciate those questions. I had some of those questions myself. And I have a meeting with Chief of Staff of Seattle to talk with them this week about some of the what's working, what's not working in terms of their subcommittees. And we certainly we do not have the capacity as an organization to support a huge number of subcommittees. But yeah, we just don't at this point. So, and I think that's part of my comment of you have to go slow to go fast. If get something done quality and get it done right instead of just rushing into it. So thank you for asking the questions that you're asking.
I also think that there would be a lot of overlap with several of these. I mean, if you think about a committee for Bud Inlet cleanup, and then you think about a governance or, governmental affairs committee. I mean, our governmental affairs focus now is going to be on funding for the Bud Inlet project. So how to incorporate those and make those work together if we're gonna go that route.
And maybe there's a way of tasking two of us, hey, we need two commissioners to go testify at the legislature. Who's up for it? Cause then we all know we're on the same page. Hey, we need two commissioners to attend this town hall with Camp Perez, or, just like, then we're all clear on what the task is, rather than getting into governance with two people.
I agree. I think that's where we will find meaning, is really looking into tasks that we can find a charter for, find individual tasks like you had listed, and then go from there. Because if it's not laid out like that, I think it's open to some opinion and subjective bias.
And maybe with the POCAC, there's a way that we can carry forward the voice of the full commission if two of us or a rotating group of, we could rotate through, or but then maybe would have been clear on what we're asking the POCAC with, so that we could speak with one voice.
I would recommend that modeling after other subcommittees, and whether it is a city, a county, or a port, that your subcommittees do not have decision-making authority. They could make recommendations to the main body, to the Board of Commissioners. And so that that way you would not have two members of your commission making decisions for the whole organization. You would have, they could bring recommendations forward.
Anything else? Any other questions?
This is Jasmine. I would just add that I appreciate, it's always helpful when you talk to other ports. I think Port of Seattle might not be the best example for us, right? Because of their size. And so maybe there's a different smaller port you could talk to about how they set up these sorts of structures.
Yes, finding that counterpart, that is the challenge. So smaller ports, well, we're a medium-sized port. It's challenging to have to model yourself after a larger port. And I don't think anybody on our team probably would recommend that, because it's not sustainable. And to your point, you have a huge commitment now with your external committees. How we create those tendrils to you and the tie, so that we're connected to the information that you're getting on committees that will help inform our work. I think you kind of highlighted, like, your question, should I be here or a staff member be here? I think that's a good conversation to start, because if that's what your observation is, we should be listening, doing things the same way, because that's the way we've always done it. That's not necessarily going to be progressive. And I know this team that I work with, and under, the direction of Executive Director Smith, I think we're all very excited to, help the port progress and do good things and work with the community and work closely with you. So So I appreciate your comments and yeah.
I'll just do one more to piggyback on that. Serving on the WPPA committees and participating with WPPA for me has been the best education in things you don't know what you don't know of as far as what other ports are doing and things like that. So I would just encourage my fellow commissioners to, that is such a wealth of information because that's the only place where we can really interact with other ports and both at the commission and the staff level. So serving on committees there is really valuable.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the action calendar. We have one item under the action calendar. Amendment number 8, option to extend lease term, Olympia Marine Center, Clarita Maddox, Real Estate Senior Manager. You are up.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here before you again. And I say thank you for the opportunity to do what I love and do it here at the port. So tonight I am coming before you with the lease amendment number 8 for the Olympia Marine Center. And this is for the purpose of extending the term with an additional option for Olympia Marine Center. This came before you as an advisory on March 11, 2024, and we walked you through the details then, but I'll review that one more time. Swantown Marine Center is located at the Swantown Boat Works area, 700 Marine Drive, Northeast Olympia. The Olympia Marine Center, a little bit of background here, is in 1999, the initial lease was with Simon Johnson, and it was for the construction of a marina support facility. The initial term was 30 years with a 10-year option to extend that term. In 2019, the lease was assigned to Simon Johnson, from Simon Johnson to Swantown LLC. And in 2020, the lease was assigned one more time from Swantown LLC to Olympia Marine Center, our current tenant. Now we're here in 2024 where there is a request by the Olympia Marine Center to amend the lease for that additional 15-year option, which would be the second one in their lease for refinancing purposes, and that remaining initial term of 5 years at the moment takes us to 2029. And the additional 15 years would extend the term all the way to April 30th, 2054. The rent is adjusted for the first and second option periods with an appraisal, initially with an appraisal to determine the fair market value of the time. And both the 10-year option that begins in 2029 and the second option that begins in 2039. And once that appraisal is determined, then the rate of the rent will be calculated based on commission policy of the then time. This option amendment also provides that this second option would be subject to a mutual agreement, and it addresses deferred maintenance on the buildings, on the asset. So we want the building to have a nice roof cleaned up, the parking lot repairs. There's some repairs that need to be addressed and the tenant has to do it. And do restriping, do the gutters repairs, and really present the asset to maintaining in a good quality state. Traditionally, the port will require tenants to make improvements before we consider any extensions of their terms. The Olympia Marine Center will address those maintenance items that I just mentioned. And some examples for you that we have done before are extensions that we gave BPMP Investments, Olympia Mini Storage, the J4 Associates, International Wood Products, and Olive Management, all are located in Tumwater. So these are other tenants that needed that. And in every instance, we also require improvements to their assets, from anywhere from repainting the buildings to redoing some of their landscaping, to addressing stormwater systems, whatever was deficient for the building and not maintaining the value, we expected that to take place. So tonight, if there is no questions, I propose to you a motion to move to ratify amendment number 8 to the lease with Olympia Marine Center for the purpose of extending the lease term for an additional 15 years with conditions as presented. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to address.
Is there any questions or comments or anyone prepared to make a motion?
I just have a comment. I feel that this supports small business and the opportunity to expand, providing job opportunities and contributing to the economic development by providing services for local boat owners in Swantown Marina. And so I feel like this is a good opportunity for the port to support a small business owner. That's my comment.
Any other questions or comments or?
I move to ratify amendment number 8 to the lease with Olympia Marine Center for the purpose of extending the lease term an additional 15 years with conditions as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to ratify amendment number 8 to the lease with Olympia Marine Center for the purpose of extending the lease term an additional 15 years with conditions as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, ratify amendment number 8 to the lease with Olympia Marine Center for the purpose of extending the lease term an additional 15 years with conditions as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Clarita. Okay, we have nothing on our action other calendar this evening and no items on the advisory calendar. So now we can move into commissioner reports and discussion. Is there any commissioner reports? Commissioner Sanders, you have anything you'd like to start with?
I do not at this time.
Okay.
Besides, I had a really great time with Commissioner Harding today, celebrating Earth Day by joining staff picking up garbage. So that was great.
Great. Mr. Tong, anything?
I enjoyed the Thurston County Chamber Night on the Town. That was a good event supporting their education foundation. Nice to see everyone there.
Very good. Commissioner Vasavada, you have anything to report?
Thank you. I joined Director Alex and Sean last week in another meeting of the Deschutes Estuary Restoration Governance Work Group. Basically, I wanted to make sure folks know that this is a multi-jurisdictional working group that includes Olympia and the port and others. The meeting was just with the port, but we're moving towards basically a plan so that we can complete our remediation of Budd Inlet, and that they're depending on us to do that for the Deschutes Estuary restoration to move forward. You can look, the State Department of Enterprise Services is chairing the work group, and they do have a website if anyone's interested.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Harding?
My quote of the day, I'm reading this great book about Teddy Roosevelt, and as you can imagine, Teddy Roosevelt's strength and challenge is like chomping at the bit to take action, but I thought this was a great quote. Change is realized by those who take the next step, not those who theorize the 200th step. Bob always goes.
Gotta let it sink in a little bit. It's but that's a good one. Thank you for that. Okay, well, I don't have anything to report in this on this item, so we can move to other business. Is there any other business? This is where we could maybe talk about any agenda items or any topics that you might want to see come up in the future. If there's anything you can maybe help to guide Commissioner Vasavada and I when we're looking at the agenda setting for the future, or whatever other business you might want to talk about, now would be a good time. Does anybody have any other business? Hearing none, we'll move on to meeting announcements.
Boy,
Executive Director Smith, you're back up.
thank you. So as mentioned previously, this Wednesday at 5:30 PM, we have the town hall. Again, it's in this room, the Olympia Room at 626 Columbia Street Northwest, Suite 1B. And then upcoming for the commission, we have a special meeting on Monday, May 6th at 3:30 PM. It's a special work session, and the topic that we're going to discuss is the Waterfront Center. And we will go through the history of Destination Waterfront and just give the commission background that I don't think we previously provided to you all on the background of that proposed facility. On Monday, May 13th, we have a regular commission meeting here in the Olympia Room at 5:30 PM. And then on Monday, May 20th, we have another commission work session at 3:30 PM. And I believe the topic is that broadband? Yes, we'll be discussing broadband with some folks from the Port of Bellingham and the Port of Whitman. Yes, who both have established broadband programs. They've got some really great information to share. That's it.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments about the meeting announcements? All right, hearing none and hearing no other business to conduct, the meeting is now adjourned.